Good. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome all councillors around the table, staff, and to Alan from the news, and to our councillors on screen, Colin Reedy, Rosalie Sampson, and Councillor Linda Weir, and also welcome to anybody online who's watching us this afternoon. This is the Buller District Council extraordinary meeting. Clock Tower Chambers, Palmerston Street, Westport. So present, I've mentioned Rosalie, Colin and Linda via Zoom. And I think everybody else is here who's missing today. Councillor Hingston. Yep. Okay. So in terms of apologies, we have an apology from Councillor Hingston and one from Francois Toomey. Otherwise, everybody is here. So I'll move that the apologies be accepted. Moved by Councillor Reynolds. Councillor Hawes. No discussion. All those in favour? Rosalie? Rosalie? Can you hear us, Rosalie? Can you hear us, Rosalie? No. Thought there might be. Yeah, hi, Colin. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, thanks. Linda, can you hear me? Okay, Rosalie, can you hear me? No, Rosalie. Would somebody like to perhaps give her a call? Okay, thanks. Okay, so we'll take Rosalie as a yes. I'm sure that'll be okay. Okay, thanks, Caitlin. Okay, so that's passed. Agenda item 2, members' interests. The members disclose any financial or non-financial interest in any of the agenda items. Has anybody got anything to disclose? No. Online? Nothing to disclose. Okay, so we'll put that to the vote. Everybody in favour? Those against?
We need a mover in a second.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, getting carried away. Tony moved. Deputy Mayor seconded. We'll give Dave Ward a break.
External one.
All in favour?
You can hear me?
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear us?
No.
Okay, we've got a mover, Tony, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All those in favour? Those against? Okay, that's passed.
Sorry, was Councillor Reedy for or against?
Councillor Reedy, you were for? Yeah. Thanks, Colin. Okay, agenda item 3.1, adoption of draft annual plan 2026 to 2027 and consultation document. So at this point, I will hand over to Simon to say, give us an introduction, say a few words. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, good afternoon, everybody. We might remember when we started this process, we were something like 15.6%, which was obviously a working figure for our rates rise. But we accepted the challenge that you threw down to us to bring that down to at least the LTP figure, which was just sitting above 9. So we've worked to refine the budget, and I'll go through a little bit of detail about how we've achieved what we've achieved. But it's now currently sitting at 4.4%, which we're pleased with. However, there are some things which I'll talk about in a moment, which are just caveats to this. But the work that the team have done, guided by council, it's been extensive. So we've undertaken a further line-by-line review. So this has been a... Sorry, Tony, do you have a question, or was it? Oh, yeah, sorry. So I thought you were just nodding. So, okay. So we've done a line-by-line review. The wastewater separation project, which you may remember, was previous council's direction around the separation of the wastewater, stormwater separation in Westport. That's been reprofiled, which has saved about $320,000. We did have some key roles that we'd put into next year's budget, which we identified as a priority. However, we have deferred those. That saved around $220,000. The team have been really good at looking at their consultant spend, and in the roading area in particular, the team have identified things that they can do internally that they will own and they will deliver on, which has saved around $250,000 in terms of our consultant spend. Repairs and maintenance in the infrastructure space saves around $250,000, and then a review to smaller rats and mice, things like review of our legal spend, and putting some controls around how we create legal advice, how we ask for legal advice, saves around $40,000. We've looked hard at our revenue. So our fees and charges, we've obviously reviewed those every year and CPI adjust where we can. But we've also identified additional property sales, some vehicle sales, and some savings which derive from those, like savings on vehicle insurance. We've also requested from BHL an increase of around $100,000. However, with all of that, it does bring associated risks. So there's no such thing as a free lunch. With the repairs and maintenance, there does have a risk to that in terms of, obviously, with the age of some of the assets and their likelihood of failure, that can potentially create a potential overspend. But what we think we've done is struck a balance between the cost, the affordability issues that we have in the district, and the likelihood of failure. But we're just really flagging that because obviously as we cut that budget back, the likelihood of that overspend is greater. Any deferred maintenance that does create then an issue with an emergency repair, that obviously costs more than doing it and making that plan in advance. The recruitment and retention I've raised with you as a group before. By deferring those key roles, we do put more pressure on existing staff. We're already pretty stretched, and to retain good staff, to recruit good staff remains a challenge for me and the team. And that does mean that some projects can't be delivered as quickly as we'd like, and it does create risks broadly. But we believe overall, having said all of that, we can manage these things, and we can manage those risks as a group. We've signalled in the workshop that we'll be making a start submission, perhaps on things that council might want to consider reintroducing. And what we'll do is we will do a matrix exercise on each of those that we think are key, looking at the various risk profiles and saying, these are the things you could consider, but we'll do that as part of the deliberations based on some of the conversations that we had with you with the workshops. So just as a reminder, this is an exceptions only annual plan. So there aren't any significant long-term plan changes or changes from the long-term plan rather. Apart from that stormwater integration consultation, key consultation item, which we've outlined in the consultation document and the annual plan itself. So just a reminder, the Carnoa funding, there's a 40% local share if we want to pick that up, but that's a cost of $3.5 million to us in the community. But we believe it's a key project that we need to do in order to make the delivery of a resilient, robust floodwater protection for Westport, in order to make those crossing points and the pumps work. So as we've worked through this annual plan, the team have been very aware of affordability issues, and obviously this has come up very regularly in our recent meetings around the affordability issues created by Three Waters and the creation of the CCO. With obviously the current situation in the Middle East, we're very cognizant of the fuel costs and what that's doing to people's household income. But we do think this strikes a reasonable balance between allowing the community to thrive and grow while keeping rates as low as possible without creating too much risk. But as with all these things, as you know, it is about striking that balance. And you as the governors and our community need to decide whether we've got this right. But what we think we've delivered you today is a really good starting point for a conversation with our community. So just a reminder to our community listening as well, what we're asking for is feedback on the entire plan. We're obviously really interested in the key consultation item, what you think about our stormwater integration piece, because it's a lot of money, but we want to hear about everything. We want to hear about the views on the proposed rates. We want to hear about fees and charges that we're proposing, the capital spend program. All these are open. So just to reiterate, it's not just about the key consultation item. The whole plan is up for consultation, and we want to hear. So the consultation period opens on the 7th of April, providing the council adopts today. and runs through to the 5th of May. So we're on a fairly tight timeline, but what we think we presented to you is a really good starting point. We're open to feedback on that, and we will take questions from there.
Okay, thanks for that, Simon. I'll start off the question, if I may. We're sitting at 4.4%. That's what we'd call in the, based on what you're saying, that's what we would call in the mining industry an upside, perhaps. So the risks you've identified in a worst case scenario, what might that 4.4 move to if the plaintiffs don't align? Not necessarily as a start off for a rates increase, but during the year if some of these risks do transpire.
I guess that's quite a hard question to answer without a crystal ball, but I suppose what I would say is that, I mean, no plan is risk-free. If we were sitting at 9% or 15%, there would still be inherent risk because we do get failures in our systems that we just can't predict. We do try to do proactive maintenance. But we think what we've got here is a really good start. And obviously through the consultation process, through deliberations, things can be added back in at council's discretion. None of these are going to be significant in terms of, they're not major projects. We're not going to add in a huge new library extension or anything like that. But it is really hearing from council, hearing from the community around, have we got the rates rise right? Are we managing the balance of risk? So it's really hard to answer your question directly, but that's the kind of context that we're in at the moment. And obviously now we're aware of what's going on with fuel prices at the moment, but we don't know where we're going to be come the end of April into May. The situation could have resolved a little bit, or it could have got worse.
Yeah, that's a fair response. I wasn't expecting you to put a particular figure on. I know how difficult that is. I guess the reason for my question was to, highlight to everybody and particularly to the public that at 4.4, if some of these risks come back to us, then that 4.4, will end up at the end of the day as being something higher.
Yeah.
We'll go to Tony and then we'll come to Dave.
I'd just firstly like to say, we've got a few more questions, but just on the actual look of the plan, on the design of the plan, good. But I feel like some of the, like if who's going to be reading this? Probably people that are a little bit older as well, can't quite see properly. The font is really small. It's not very clear. Yeah, I just think can we find a way that we can block on the lettering, because if you try to read this, it's a bit of a challenge in spots. That's just my feedback.
Thanks, Tony. Councillor Hawes.
Yeah, well, I'd like to move the draft recommendations 1 through 6. Just and I think that we've delivered something that the community asked, which was to be, financially prudent on their behalf. I acknowledge that that there'll be changes. There always have been. I've been here. It's not the first time around this table at this particular process, but I just want to actually thank the staff as well, that they've actually taken what this table asked on behalf of our community. Our community asked us to be financially prudent, and they've gone away, taken that on board. I also just quickly want to acknowledge the fact that this is for the community. This is a consultation document that allows them to also feed back in any desires that they feel they need to see within their community, any changes, and that also has the potential to alter the final figures. So in these processes in the past, people will submit to the annual plan with their various wants or needs within the community, and we've always assessed those as part of the process. And if they get added in, they alter the final sum. I also want to acknowledge the only concern that I have is around R&M maintenance. I always err on the side of caution on the West Coast with our climate around maintenance, particularly of assets such as halls and buildings that have deterioration factors, really need to be maintained regularly. So there may be some feedback. I'd like the communities that have these halls and everything that may be affected to also feedback and their views on the maintenance issues that may arise. Thank you.
Thanks, councillor. Simon, so just for clarity, in terms of the consultation period for the public, that includes councillors too, and actually going through the document and feeding in any questions that they may have.
Yes, of course. I mean, if the council's been really engaged up to this point anyway, so obviously you've been involved in several workshops, but we've received questions resulting from the document already. But if you do have any questions at any point, then by all means reach out to myself or the group manager. And obviously for the public, there is a dedicated email. There's the flexible bullet. There's lots of options in order to ask questions of, and also provide feedback on the plan.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Rutherford.
I'm happy to second the motion, but I just have a question around the consultation item. So in there, it's got the cost, but it doesn't have the effect on rates. I just wondered if someone can tell me. I know, I suppose it will depend on the interest rates at the time, but can we get a rough idea of what the impact is on rates this year and in year two?
So
Yes, so the impact in year one would be around the region of around $200,000 to $220,000, and thereafter it goes up to about $350,000.
So what percentage of rates is that though?
What percentage of rates?
Yeah, what would we be looking at?
You'll be looking at about 0.45 to 0.5% of rates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And lastly, I just want to reiterate the comment around repairs and maintenance. Particularly, we had a discussion with Chrissy around a figure being removed from repairs and maintenance for reserves, and I feel like it needs to be put back in there because we've intimated to our volunteers that there is a process with repairs and maintenance. If we remove that figure, then we're removing that process or that for them to go through. So just want to make note of that.
Just through the chair, the repairs and maintenance has been logged and will be included in the staff submission for councillors to decide if that's something they'd wish to put back in.
Councillor Rutherford.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of wee questions. I would have asked for earlier clarification had it not been such a time-consuming job to go through looking at detail. My first question is in regard to water charges, specifically Mokanui, a rather eye-watering $5,132. Is that number correct?
Apologies, Phil, I'm just looking for that.
which page is it on?
I don't know, it's under all the water things. Page
Is it the sample?
35 in the document.
Through the chair, if I just, before Brent answers that question, if I just add that is one thing that came up, just so everyone around the table for clarity. This is something that came up quite loud and clear last year when we were adopting the water services delivery plan. It also came up as part of the consultation on the long-term plan. That is a significant challenge we face. So my expectation when Brent looks at that is that it will be correct. Because Mokanui, that the charges expected in some of these smaller schemes are extremely high in the coming years. But this again goes back to the point I was saying around a few weeks ago around us as part of the long-term plan process. I think we should potentially look at a consultation around a district-wide rate for water. And that's something that we'll discuss as the months go on when we lead into LTP. But I would suspect that is the right number.
Cool.
Well, just while you're looking at that, my second question, it's sort of in regard to the overall look and feel of the document. Great, 4.4, congratulations, well done. But if I look at the impact on the rates breakdown, I note that there is only one, it's Waimangaroa in a negative variance, and there's another one at 4.1, and the rest of them are all way in excess of 4.1%. The average reader of this document will say 4.4, hang on, 18% increase, 16% increase, 8%, 6%, 7%. How can we articulate that there is actually a rate rise across the district of 4.4 when all these numbers here would suggest that no one's going to get such a rate rise?
I think we have made it clear throughout the process that that is an average rate increase, and that we've made it clear that there'll be highs and lows within that.
What, two lows out of 20 something more?
Well, these are just the rates samples, so there will be more than that, but these are the samples for each area.
Well, so my question is, can it somehow be better articulated through the document? The average resident of the district will pick this up and they'll say, who's getting this 4.4% increase? Because I certainly have not.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Hawes.
Through the chair, I think we're talking about general rates here. We're not talking about targeted rates. Targeted rates are what they are. They're closed accounts. They're money in, money out. So they're money out, money in. Rather than general rates, we have no control over the costs there, which is the reason why we're being drawn into the nationwide discussion around the Three Waters entities, etc., to try and minimise the cost. That's a separate discussion, and it'll be around harmonisation, I believe, going into this across the district. So while at the moment Mokanui will be facing substantial water charges at this stage, those charges will be, as I believe, harmonised across all of our water entities going into the new entity.
Thanks, Councillor Hawes.
Yeah,
John, you would like to?
No, Mr. Mayor, please. That has not in any way answered the question that I asked. The 4.4 includes targeted rates.
Okay, John, you want to?
Yes, Richard. Thank you, Councillor. What I was just going to add there was there is a page, I think it's page 97, sorry, that highlights the differences between targeted rates, general rates, etc. And it kind of gives a breakdown of what we're talking about, just to add to Councillor Hawes' point of view there. So hopefully that helps.
Okay, for our councillors in space on Zoom, are there any questions you guys would like to ask? Councillor Reedy and then Councillor Sampson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just following on from.
Sorry, guys. Councillor O'Keefe had a question. I was remiss. So we'll go to Tony first and then to Councillor Reedy, then to Councillor Sampson. Sorry, Tony.
Hi, yeah, just still on Mokanui and the Northern Buller. What surprises me the most about this is that, in the earliest stages of this, around local water done well and drinking water, is that the community has not had one public meeting and been asked the question on their supply, which is I'm quite angry about, because you're putting a figure on this when there has been discussion of actually decommissioning their supply and finding a different alternative, which might actually cost less, but it hasn't been the opportunity or chance to even talk to the public. So, yeah, that hasn't happened, and we were guaranteed that was going to happen. Is there any plans around this, around actual community consultation around supplies?
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, I think just a couple of things on that, Councillor O'Keefe. We have, obviously, as part of local water done well, we did do multiple workshops around the district. However, what I would say is, if that is a request that you have, that's something we can maybe speak to you separately about. I know you have mentioned it before. So we can take one away and we can have a conversation and see if we can, we'll talk to the team and see if we can make that happen, because I do see the point you're making, absolutely.
Okay, so you'll come back to councillor O'Keefe on that, John?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 3 questions, if I may, please, and an observation. Just kicking on from Councillor Rutherford about the 4.4%. Councillor Hawes then came in and said, no, that's only to do with the general rate. Can I please have confirmation that the 4.4% that covers everything, targeted rate, uniform general rate, and the general rate? Is that correct or incorrect?
Through the chair, yeah, that's total rates movement, Colin, you're correct.
It includes everything.
That includes everything, yep.
That's fine. Second question is, we've got infrastructure. It's looking at around about 18.9, let's say $19 million of projects, capital projects for the next financial year. History tells me that the best that we get out of projects in any particular financial year is around the 15 million mark. So anything between, say, 13 and 16 million. At the moment, we're forecasting just under 19 million, plus there'll be carryovers. And I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that the rates increase at the moment, or the rates calculation includes interest on loans for the 18 or just under $19 million of forecast projects. And I've since ascertained that well, hang on, sorry, I've gone off.
Colin,
The question is, yeah, can I just ask the question, please?
Yeah, sure.
Carryovers for 25-26, what impact are they going to have on the 18.9 million forecast CapEx spend for the next financial year?
Thanks, Colin. Brent?
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Reedy. That is an issue we do have, and one the senior management of infrastructure services is working hard to address. I'll take those questions in 2 parts. The first is, what if we don't deliver the $18 million spend? The short answer, the impact on rates is actually to our benefit, because we haven't drawn down that money, therefore we're not being charged for the interest repayments. Similar for the carryover. If it's carried over from last year, it means it wasn't drawn down. We draw it down this year, we start repaying it. So it's a little bit swings and roundabouts. However, the expectation, certainly from finance, certainly from management of infrastructure services, is that if we say we're going to do $18 million worth of work, we do our best to get to that point. There will be things that will impact on that, such as weather conditions, etc. But it's a matter of lining and getting that schedule of works going from the first of the year, and that we've done a lot of work on how the 1st of July looks for us in terms of getting stuff out the door and under construction.
Thanks, Brent. Councillor Reedy, you had another question, did you?
But I will just to pick up on what Brenna said just then, in terms of drawing down the loan. When we prepare a budget, and that budget will include the forecast to draw down the loan, and my understanding is that we budget for interest from the 1st of July, regardless of when we the project and we draw down the loan. So there is a big difference between drawing down the loan and budgeting for drawing down the loan. So what I'm going to suggest is that we have already budgeted for drawing down the loans from 1 July for about $19 million of interest. So I'll just leave that for now. But there's, as I say, a big.
Councillor,
Yes.
we'll pass it over to Sohana to respond to that.
Just leave that now. Thanks.
Councillor, I'd like to hear the response to that, Sohana. Thank you.
Through the chair, thank you. So in our forecast, firstly, it's $18 million worth of capital expenditure. That's the plan. That's not exactly what we are loan funding, because a huge chunk of the 18 million is funded, and it includes roading, which we all know is a hugely funded activity. We then have replacement work that's funded through reserves. And so it's only a portion of that 18 million. And at this stage, included in our plan is about 5.7 million that's been forecasted to be funded, and it's not all effective from 1 July. It has been phased. So we've been very prudent in our, how we've accounted for that. And we've adjusted our principal repayments and our interest accordingly. So even if there is a movement, it's not going to have a material change. So if Capital Works doesn't deliver 18 million, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to have an impact on our final numbers, because only, like I said, 5.7 million has been planned for to be funded.
Thanks, Sohana.
Okay.
Yep.
Councillor Reddy, do you have another question?
Yeah, the other question is the CapEx spend is made up of 3 items. The first one is additional demand. What is the driver for additional demand where we have for for CapEx $1.1 million additional demand? How is additional demand quantified, please?
Brent, are you going to respond to that?
Yes, I can. I will investigate that and come back to you, Colin. I think there's a level of service improvement, capital improvement. So, but I can refine that for you.
Okay, thanks, Brent. Okay, Colin, we're going to move on now to Rosalie. I'll just make the point.
One observation, please. One observation, please.
Councillor, order. Councillor, order, please.
Yes, can I said there's three questions and one observation.
Okay, Councillor, I think you've had your 3 questions, if I'm not mistaken. I'd just like to remind everybody that this is a consultation document. We will have opportunity to continue to have dialogue with staff and ask the sort of questions. In my particular case, I asked probably 12 or 13 questions prior to the meeting, and I thank Leslie for coming back with that. So I'd like to move on to Councillor Sampson now, please.
Okay, thank you. I've just got a couple too. Just to start with, on page 64 or 50 of the agenda, you have got the reserves and the camping grounds. Karamea Reserve has been missed out.
Yeah, through a chair, that's noted. We'll look at that.
Okay. And I concur with previous speakers as of the understanding of the variation of the rates. I just I'm going to have to sit down with somebody to get a clear understanding, because I just can't see where that huge variation comes from. Next one is solid waste. We have got a full figure on what each area is going to cost. Page 58. And it's got the overall figure of zone 1, 2, and 3 previously. So ratepayers have an understanding of what they're being charged. It is per unit or per household rate. Can that be included too, please? Because nobody would have any idea unless they went back and looked on previous long-term plans, etc. It's meaningless to just have that lump sum figure.
Thanks, Councillor.
And also that goes with the rates breakdowns, I just sort of can't come to grips with the fact that the target rates are all included within the this 4.4%. So like I said, I need an understanding how that's happened, but in our rate breakdown previously, we have had what the sewage rate is, the water rate and the general rate, hence making it a total rate. But with what we've got as a rate breakdown now is just all inclusive. And that's where I have great difficulty with Waimangaroa with a minus 6.1 or 4.5. But if you go back to the long-term plan of what the projected water rate was in that and what is being proposed now, if I'm not mistaken, it was something like a $500 increase. At the same time, they're getting this decrease in their overall rate. And I'm just wondering, where has that got something to do with the outstanding amount that was unspent, or the unspent money on the project?
Thanks, councillor. I'm just going to ask staff if that question is better answered here, or for you to spend some time with somebody on staff to go through and address the questions that you've raised.
Through the chair, I think that would be the best option. I don't think we can answer that one right now. I think we're more than happy to have Councillor Sampson who can talk us through how the rates are made up. That's no problem.
So Councillor Sampson should
reach out, we can sort something out. Yep.
Okay, is that okay, Rosalie?
Well, yes, but what I am asking, if we can have a breakdown when in the rates breakdown as to what the different components can make up of the full rate. So for the likes of people in Karamea, for argument's sake, 18% is what we have got the proposed increase, 18%, and there's no water sewage there.
Okay, I think we all understand, councillor. So John, will you contact Councillor Sampson and set that up? Because Councillor Sampson's raised that, so somebody in the community is likely to answer that too.
Yeah, through the chair, if I just add one point, Councillor Sampson, we'll certainly take a look and see if we can include that as part of the final document in June. In terms of before the consultation document goes out, we probably wouldn't have the time to do that right now in terms of those numbers. However, let's see what we can do for the final. Ultimately, the document that's in front of you just now meets all the legislative requirements, what's expected to be included in terms of the rating examples, but we can certainly look at that for the final.
Thanks,
and of course, everyone has access to view their own rates as well.
Okay, thanks, John. Councillor Webb, I invite you to ask any questions if you have any. Okay, thank you. Councillor Curnow? No. Councillor Reynolds?
I'm disappointed it's not a 0% rate rise, because over some of the large expenses over the last 12 months, if they are not to be repeated, then I see there's every reason why it could have been reduced further. There's a need for that, particularly in the financial energy market at the moment. One figure that's missing there is I pointed out a rather large error in the long-term plan regarding the stormwater, wastewater separation for Westport and Carter's Beach. And out of all the targeted rates in the document, I can't find that reworked figure for Carter's Beach. Is that going to be, it was set down for $162.10. An error has been pointed out. What is the reworked figure?
So,
Chair, thank you. Councillor Reynolds, I think I did respond to you with a full breakdown of that. What has happened now, it's part of the targeted rates. So I'm not too sure the numbers that you're reciting, where that was disclosed previously, but the correction has been made from $360,000 to $38,000, and it is part of the targeted rates. So the way in which the rate is worked out is on a total value, and it's obviously split out to with the different differentials into the different households. So it's in that number. I'm happy to sit with you if you'd like to go through each one, but it's not going to be disclosed as a separate rate, because it's not calculated as a separate rate.
Okay, thanks,
Yes.
Hannah. Is that a possibility, Paul, to sit down with
It's just-
Hannah and go through some of those?
It's just the long-term plan described as $162.10. It's in there and it's going to be, and it's been changed to accommodate the error. Never mind, we can find that out in due course. But the sort of questions that ratepayers will be asking me is not what's in here, but what's not in here. And they were asking, is there expenditure in here for proposed advertorials? Is there more, what funds are in there too? And I don't expect answers for these, but I'll get them in turn, no doubt. We've had approximately $750,000 spent examining our method of rubbish collection. And I hope there's no figures like that in there again. Signage for the MBS Theatre, there was $20,000 in that for last year, which was repurposed. We haven't missed the signs, so I hope there's not a $20,000 in there for those. Ratepayers were unanimously against any climate resilience spending, so I hope there's no funds in there for that.
Okay.
Planning on infrastructure costs for new town site.
Yeah,
Hopefully
thanks.
there's none in
Thanks,
there
Paul.
for that.
Yep, I think they're all good points, and I think that we'll have the opportunity to raise those again during the consultation process. And so Hannah's made a kind offer to sit with you and work through the questions that you have. You happy with that?
I have an answer for Sahana, but it didn't make sense regarding the error that's been made in the way the loan was.
Okay, well, I think the way to approach that is that you and Sahana, with Simon's permission, sit down and sort of work that through together.
I'll make contact again.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, why don't we just very quickly go around the table for one question each, if anybody's got anything really urgent and pressing. Bearing in mind, of course, we've got the consultation process to go through as well. So I just make the offer if anybody's got a final question they'd like to ask. Councillor Rutherford.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. It goes back to my original question. I want to know how we or staff or whoever are going to respond to the question from a ratepayer. And I've looked at page 100 and I'm seeing exactly the same thing, a whole long list of percentage increases well above the 4%. In fact, I'll reiterate, there's a minus for Waimangaroa, there's someone on 4.01%, and the rest are all way above 4%. How do we explain to these people that it's only a 4.4% rate rise when they're all looking at numbers between 8 and 15?
Thanks, councillor. Where did we leave that? Just refresh my memory when we had that discussion before. How were we going to deal with that, Leslie?
Right. Breakdown.
An answer to answer councillor Rutherford's. If he's asked the question, you know, how's he going to respond to?
For the breakdown.
Yep.
When we put this document out, we have to put the indicative rates up on our website, so anybody can actually look at the website and will see the breakdown of the rates on there. Because there's too much information for us to actually put all that in this document, and it's not a legal requirement. So we would suggest that your response is that, you know, point them in the right direction on the website and they can look the rates up.
So to first review what's on the website, and if in doubt, contact somebody in council.
And we will have to advertise when that goes out. So it's not up yet, but we will advertise and it'll be during this period.
Address space.
Sorry?
Is that fine? So someone can look up their address.
They can put in their valuation number and it will bring up.
Yeah, and then if they've got any further questions, they can address those through the website too.
There's a submission link.
There is submission.
Yeah, there's multiple different mechanisms to do that. It's all highlighted in the consultation.
That's great. Thank you. Councillor Reynolds, one last.
It probably just relates to the last question regarding that 162.10. Is it intended to just charge that in the general rate to those people involved?
Yes. Yes, so the new value of 38,000 got allocated to targeted rates and it gets broken down to all the different differentials. So,
So-
yeah,
I understand it won't show on the rate demand as a targeted rate.
sorry,
It won't show on the rate demand as a separate figure.
no.
Okay, thank you, councillor. Deputy Mayor, do you have any further?
I just, when I look at the figures that are there, I guess my concern is that once again, Westport and the wider area are looking at 17% increase and it seems to be the same every year that Westport and the wider area are paying a large, and I know that they are probably around targeted rates, but these are the same people that will also be paying for the bulk of flood bills when they come in. So it comes back again, I guess, to that concern around affordability for those areas in particular.
Thanks, councillor. Councillor Kerno.
I understand the answer to the councillor over this question that any individual consultant will be able to look up the indicative rates for their property.
Microphone, please, Ray.
I'm sorry, I thought it was.
Thank you.
Sorry. Following on from Councillor Rutherford's question, I understand that any individual householder will have the opportunity to go and look at the indicative rate for their property, but it doesn't alter the fact that page 44 of the consultation document just mathematically cannot make sense. It cannot add up, because what it appears to show, and I must be missing something here, it appears to show that the vast majority of properties will have a rates increase which is significantly in excess of 4.4%. So how can that 4.4% average be derived? I know there's an answer, but I need to be able to explain this too.
Okay, John.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, thanks, Simon. I think there's a couple of things in that, Councillor Cunro. I think I'm sure that offer that we've given to explain to Rosalie, etc., we'd be more than happy to extend to anyone around the table. However, these pages are just rating samples. They're not a full breakdown of all the samples we have in the and I can understand when you look at that, you go, how on earth does that make 4.4%? That makes total sense. But like I say, it's just samples. There are multiple other samples we could have as well. But if we were to put in every sample of every differential we have, then the document would be massive.
Okay. Well, that's a good answer. So therefore, this is a document that's going out to the public for consultation. Could we not have a more representative set of samples, for example? Because this I'm sorry, it's just going to cause confusion.
That's okay.
The samples will have been picked based on the LTP or previous year because of the comparative. And if you start changing them around now, we haven't got the comparative in there that in the published document.
Can I suggest, Ray, I understand where you come from. Can I suggest you join with Phil and sitting down? I understand what you're saying as far as during the consultation process, what people will read. If the questions come to you, prior to, public consultation, then they'll need to be answered there as well. So maybe a bit more work to be done on that. Okay, we'll go around. Tony, we'll come to you just a tick. Councillor Webb? Nothing. Okay, Councillor Sampson?
I just reiterate what I said before, and it's been echoed by Phil and Ray. We're meant to explain something that has gone out in a document that appears to be unexplainable.
Thank you, councillor. So your time with, I think, who were you spending time with? Whoever it was, you'll be able to work that through. Hopefully it'll be a bit clearer after that conversation. Councillor Reedy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned before about councillors being able to put in submissions. Did I hear you correctly?
I'm not sure whether that's the case or not, but certainly it was. You could ask more questions.
It's just that I would have thought, and I'm happy to be corrected on this, any councillor who puts in a submission against the annual plan would not be able to comment on it when it comes to the submissions because they've got a bias, potential bias. So can we just have some clarification of that, please?
Understand there's a lot of nodding going on around the table, so is that correct, Simon?
So I'm just interpreting what you said, Mr. Mayor. So my understanding of what you said was that you are able to ask questions of staff, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think you were saying that you could make submissions. That's not what I heard from you.
Well, if it came across that way, that's certainly not what I was intending.
Yeah.
It was that, given that you will have asked questions prior to today, you've asked questions today, you still have the opportunity to ask more questions before we get to the point of having to accept this as an annual plan or not. So there's still some time.
So the question then is, though, Mr. Mayor, let's forget about who said what or didn't say what. If a councillor puts in a submission, are they able to discuss or take part of the submission discussions when we do meet, because there is a potential bias?
No,
yes or no?
No.
Can we have some clarification, please?
The answer is no, as I understand, councillor.
No to what? They can't take part.
Correct.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, councillor.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a thank you to staff and everyone behind the scenes for delivering the document and the consultation document. And thanks for listening to the brief of every stone and line by line, because we are, we have to reflect what's happening out there. We have to tighten our belts. That's just the reality of us now. Next thing I was going to say is just around the font, there are bigger lettering, because some of it's quite small and quite hard to read.
Thank you, Councillor. I did seek some feedback from the team. So it's a font of 12 that is required. Sorry, I'm just getting my notes up. It's a font of 12 that's required. So the consultation document is in 12.
Yeah.
The annual plan is 11, but it still meets legislative and legible. Excuse me.
Not
them. However, if we needed to change the font size, that would throw out the entire formatting.
Okay.
So all of the documents are available to view online. There's the ability to be able to blow it up.
Okay.
And that is something that we can take on for feedback in the subsequent years.
Thank you for that. And just lastly, a meeting date for Mokanui with staff, and that's during the consultation period. I think it's we actually have to do it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, councillor. Councillor Hawes.
Yep, happy to progress with the motion on the table. We've got to put this out to consultation. That's where we'll get the feedback. Understand the concerns around the table around the examples, and I just want to acknowledge the fact that we've been to the district, I think 3 times basically, in terms of trying to go through a rates review process and how we rate. And I do think that that's where some of these issues around seeing the complete variation and what some people are facing arise. I think it's around the fact that our rates is such a complex moving beast with all of the different structures that we have in amongst it to make it work. So I think we're going to have to, a simplified rating process would be far more transparent for the district. So that's my view.
Thanks, councillor. Well, I'll just finish off by saying thank you to staff for all of the work that's been done. Notwithstanding your comment about the size, Tony, which I understand, I think that the presentation here is very, very good and easily sort of understood. Well, not understood is probably not the right word in all cases, but it's a very good standard of work that's gone into it. So from my point of view, yes, I will have more questions, particularly concerning the Port and Dredge, which doesn't get a formal mention in terms of finances or anything in here, but we'll deal with that as we go through. So that's all I have to say. at this stage. I think we should put it to the vote. We have a mover for 1 through 6. I'm happy to read those out if people would like me to. Maybe I should for the benefit of those online. So the recommendation being that council, number 1, endorses the draft annual plan 2026 to 27. Number 2, endorses the consultation document for the draft annual plan 2026 to 27, which invites community feedback on this plan. Number 3, notes the key consultation item for the draft annual plan is for Westport's stormwater integration. Number 4, notes the consultation period will run from Tuesday, 7th of April 2026 and close at 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, 5th of May 2026. Number 5, notes the dates for submissions, for submission hearings and deliberations are scheduled for the 20th to the 22nd of May 2026. And number 6, authorises the Chief Executive to make any non-material changes to the draft annual plan 2026-27 or draft annual plan 26-27 consultation document. All those in favour? Those against?
Sorry. I did Councillor Reid vote.
Councillor Reid, you voted for, correct, Colin? Yep, correct. Thank you. And 1 abstention. Okay, that, if I'm not mistaken, is passed. Motion passed. Thank you, everybody. With there being no further business, the meeting is declared closed at 14:27 hours of today's date. The next meeting, 29th of April at 3:30 p.m. here in the Cocktail Chambers. And look forward to seeing you all back there then. Thank you. Yeah, Jane.